Hello, beautiful souls. Dale Allen Hoffman here, coming to you from Asheville, North Carolina, as always. I've been getting a lot of questions, actually, for the whole time I've been doing this, the past 26 years, about the word meek. Blessed are the meek. I get asked that one a lot. More than just about anything else, it's easily in the top 5. What does that mean? Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. In Aramaic, that's tuve hun la makike. The thing that's really beautiful about that is that that word makike, first of all, meek is just, it's an awful translation. I'm not going to say that it's incorrect or wrong, so to speak. It's just not a good one. It's not a good translation at all. What do I mean by that? Usually those that ask me this are often either women, feminine souls, women, a lot of times gay men, someone who feels that their entry point in the world isn't quite so kind of jam it down your throat, so to speak. But I get asked the question a lot about it. A lot of women come to me and they're like, I don't know, I don't like this. I come from a battered relationship where my husband was beating on me, my parents, whatever. What does that really mean? So, I want to kind of cap it off, or should I say start it off with a quote of my own. I often say that nothing is more utterly terrifying to an over-masculinized human being or soul than a strong, confident, powerful, often sexually expressive feminine energy or feminine essence. That doesn't necessarily mean strong women scare men, but strong feminine energy just terrifies the hell out of an imbalanced, over-masculinized person. Totally terrifies. And that's where, sort of like as an example, the Donald Trump, Megyn Kelly dichotomy, or dynamic, I should say, comes from. It doesn't matter if it's a woman that's expressive. It doesn't matter if it's a gay man, flamboyant. Either way, it's going to terrify someone who's imbalanced. So let's talk a little bit about that makike sound. Makike. Makike is a word that, there's a couple of quotes I often use. One from the Tao Te Ching that says there's nothing more powerful yet yielding than water. The issue with the word meek is there's a contraction in that. There's a drawing back. I'll often in groups ask people, what do you think might be a better word for that? And a lot of times what I'll hear people throw out there is humility. And humility gets a whole lot closer. Where does humility come from? Humility comes from the Latin root sound humus. And I used to make the joke, humus, it's that dip that you put, chickpeas and pita bread into. Or put carrots and pita bread into, made out of chickpeas. Okay, it's not funny. But the humus is that layer of earth that's open, that's porous. I'm right here in front of on the side of our home here, and you can see the dark, rich earth, if you can see that through the leaves and everything and the foliage. That dark, rich earth that's open and airy so that water and air can flow through that very, very naturally, unimpeded. That's what the word humus is. So how does humility come into that, Well, let me ask you a little bit of a question. I often ask this in groups as well. I say, what happens to you? Let me preface that with the other Tao Te Ching quote, that there's only the leader who can take on, this is, loosely from Chinese, only the leader who can take on the humiliation of the people is fit to rule them. Can take on the humiliation of the people is fit to rule them. What does that mean, humiliation? Let's say that you feel humiliated. What's going on for you in your body? I often ask this question as well. Face gets hot, neck gets hot. You've got that heat coming in, that sort of fire, so to speak. And what happens to your body, though? Brilliant thing in a session, one of my mentoring sessions, the participant said that the body turns inward on itself. And I was like, oh my God, that's a gorgeous way of putting it. Where does it want to go? Well, first of all, your power positions go. Your knees, your elbows, your hips, etc. They all get really loose. And they get something that's kind of similar to working out, that lactic acid thing. You get a little bit of a burn going on there. Interesting. So that burn happens, but your body, where does it want to do? If you're completely humiliated and embarrassed, you want to go where? Down into the earth. Interesting. So your body actually pulls itself down into the earth. Humility is actually, I have no shoes on. I say it all the time. I don't teach with shoes on, not even radio shows, not if I'm on the 100th floor of a building. Although I don't know if I've overspoken on the 100th floor of a building, but I don't wear shoes because I desire that tactile contact with earth. And even if it is, as an example, a carpet on the 40th floor, I want to be able to feel that beneath my feet, to have that earth connection. There's a great quote from the Lakota where it says, "Let the wind blow through you. Let the wind blow through you." It's a large aspect of humility in that. Humility is that realization, that experience where we can have something going on in our system, something around us, especially more so something within us, and we're able to keep the breath moving, and we're allow that situation to essentially ground itself out, dissipate in the system. You'll feel sort of a little bit of what Richard Smalley, author, he used to be a publisher of a magazine called Gnosis, amazing magazine years ago, out of San Francisco. He wrote a great book called Inner Christianity, and he talks about the hell experience and how hell, of course, and if you look at it in Aramaic, it's very clear. Hell's not some place you go to after you die. It's not some fictitious thing that threatens you in this lifetime so we can keep a hold of you and keep you under control, but rather a present moment experience where one feels overwhelmed and that heat comes in. The burn-off effect starts happening. So what is the burning effect? The burning is the rising of those residues, those unvoicing frequency patterns, what one would call, spirits, demons, devils, etc. All inner processes here, nothing that comes from outside. Those, when they start voicing in any kind of a present moment, it's triggered and it starts coming up. And of course, that experience you have is the humiliation, the heat on the face, etc. Makike is such a beautiful bit of insight to be able to understand that, to be able to, I often say to so many of us today that, we came here, we very consciously, whether you remember it or not, you made the conscious choice to come here at this specific moment in humanity for the earth. You made that choice to come here and be a grounding rod, to be able to allow yourself to be open and allow that intensity and that I should say strength of energy that humanity is experiencing right now to actually ground through you. Now, you don't do that by feeling other people's pain. Watch my previous video called Are You an Empath? Guidance for Sensitive Souls. It's not that you're feeling someone else's pain. That's a huge New Age misnomer. It's rather that what the other person is experiencing is resonating something that's already within you, and what you're feeling is what's shaking loose in your own system. How do you know it's yours? Who's feeling it? If you're feeling it, it's yours, okay? So let's go back to the Lakota insight here. In Lakota, there's actually a word, and that word sounds like this, Makike. I'm not perfect on pronouncing Lakota. Makike. Same word, interesting. What that word Makike means is to lay naked on the bare earth without a mat. That's pretty powerful stuff. That's humility. That's Makike, to have that open, naked, flowing water, air-like relationship with Earth, with Mother Earth, to allow oneself to ground into her. There's even words for, as an example, to die or death is actually to use the earth as one's own blanket. That's pretty powerful. Makike. That mach sound in Lakota means land, earth, ground, soil, world. In some cases, it can mean geography. That's pretty powerful. So you've got the earth element there. And then the second half of Makike is the ha sound. And there's also a root sound, hata, machata, actually is a word. That word machata is a word in Lakota. Again, my pronunciations are probably a little bit off. It means a sense of burning up, to have a fever, to be, some say, humiliated, hot, warm. Interesting. Very intriguing there. That word hata in Aramaic actually is the word sin. What is the word sin? The word sin, chata in Aramaic, is where one misses the mark, where one is not, it's an archery term. And I hear people say it all the time, it was an archery term, and then they blow it off. They don't actually understand what that means. The scorekeeper would yell, if you were to hit the bullseye, they'd yell tuv, which meant, it's also the word for bless or blessing. Tuv means bullseye. You're on target. It means ripe, meaning wholly, fully present in this moment. When's the only moment in time you can judge fruit as being ripe? You may hear my dog barking a little. The only moment you can judge fruit as being ripe is in the present moment of the experience of eating it, of smelling it, when the juice runs down your chin, etc. So if you hit the bullseye, the scorekeeper would yell, tuv, which meant you're on target. Good is kind of a bad English translation of that. It means fertile. It means ripe. When Yeshua said when you throw seeds on ripe, fertile soil, that they will, soil's an example of it, they will continue to grow. It'll grow. Another example would be like the faith of a mustard seed. Also, he spoke of when throwing it on arid soil, which is the word bisha in Aramaic. Bisha is also at times an archery term, and what that means is unripe, meaning that a piece of fruit hasn't quite reached its point of ripeness, or it's past it and it's now rotten. Sort of overripe, you could say, or underripe. If you were to totally and completely miss the target, the scorekeeper would yell bisha. However, if you were on the target but didn't hit the bullseye, you were still on target, they would yell out chata, chet in Hebrew. That word chata, the word translated as sin, it was constructive criticism. It meant you're around the target, but you missed the bullseye. It was constructive criticism that meant take another shot. You're not wholly, fully present, open, and ripe in the moment. Remember what I was saying earlier about let the wind blow through you. Okay, keep that in mind here. So interesting how in Aramaic and Lakota, not only are so many of the alphabet letters the same or similar, we've got a lot of the same words, or some of the same words that pop up. And I think of some deep experiences I've had over the years. As an example, in smoking a peace pipe recently a couple of years ago up in Michigan, and a real dear friend of mine, Denise Awanu, who is I believe she's Blackfoot, and she's studied with, if I'm not mistaken, Tatanka Yohata, Sitting Bull's grandson or great-grandson, who I believe has since passed. Yeah, she looked at me in this trance state and said, you, Jesus man, Jesus walked the red man's road. And it was such a powerful moment for me, really amazing. The insights are so similar in so many ways, and thread into and feed off of each other. I'll go a little deeper into that in another video. But there's a few things here I wanted to add into this experience, or into these insights, the video. First of all, meekness, that aspect of being meek, of somehow being subservient, of somehow being less than, of being weak. It's total and complete. I'll just be clear. It's a crock made up by men who controlled the Christian message. Okay, you can trace it all the way back. You can actually trace that one all the way back to the 2nd century. Probably even before that, but that's as far as I've been able to get it, to the point where I feel definitive about it. There's no aspect of that is in that word, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are the, as I say, doormats, for after you croak dead, you're going to get this amazing heaven experience that somehow you're going to get paid back for all the garbage you've had to have here in the world, in this human life. There's another insight I'd like to tie into that, which is the 2 commandments. One of the examples, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Of course, it's a restatement from Yeshua of, I believe, Deuteronomy. Is it Deuteronomy 6:4 of the Torah, the Hebrew Torah? It says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all of your mind, all of your soul, all of your strength. That word strength, haylach in Aramaic, doesn't mean strength in the sense that Christianity puts that forth. Like holding on to Jesus or holding on to anything. That's actually the exact perfectly opposite of what that means. Haylach, in Aramaic, when Yeshua said, I come to give you haya and give it abundantly, that word haya, there's my dog again, that word haya in Aramaic is the word conscious life energy. I come to give you life and give that in abundance. This here, the body temple, is called haikla. Haikla, the gathering or embodiment of conscious life energy. The temple, which is also one of the words for sanctuary or church. The word save, have you been saved? That modern Christian thing. That's the word chaya in Jesus' language. The word resurrection is the word chaya in Aramaic, his language. What's the other word? Another one. Salvation is the word chaya. You notice the point here? What I'm saying is they're all not about your strength, but about your own openness, willingness. I always say that your suffering is always in 100% direct proportion to your willingness. That your own willingness to be open allows the strength of life itself to birth through you, to live through you. And that's what was being said in the 2 commandments, which is exactly really what the makike is, that you're allowing yourself to ground into the earth so that you can bring forth the beauty of her blessing, the beauty of her womb and vital life energy, that birth energy through you. Amazing that we're talking so much about feminine now. What's the one thing that's so completely ignored on the earth right now? You know, it's Mother Earth, the air, the water, the soil. Pretty much anything mother has been completely obliterated and decimated in the past a couple of thousand years. We've been getting kind of really intense in the last 200 or 300 years since the Industrial Revolution, especially. So that the aspect of that it's not your strength. There's no holding on. Hold on to Jesus is 100% perfectly opposite of what he was saying. It's allowing your own, what you think is your own personal strength to let go so that the strength of life itself can birth consciously through you. And that's where makike comes into play. Let the wind blow through you. You don't have to do it alone because you're the one. What you're looking for is what is looking, in the words of St. Francis of Assisi. So a couple little insights I wanted to add into this. One is it says there, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, right? Well, that word inherit here in Aramaic is niartun. That tun sound means all of you, just put simply. What that word means isn't actually inherit in any way, shape, or form. It actually means turn, be, was, is, already is, or realize. In other words, that you wake up to something that already is. Again, what you're looking for is what is looking. You're not inheriting. It's like when I hear people talk about becoming more. It's like, well, the part of you that you want to become more of something is your ego. Because your eternal nature, which is what I seek to express more from, it already is everything. And how can it become more of something that it already is wholly and fully? Think about that. But you're not inheriting the earth, arha, which in Aramaic, in Lakota, I've got that moh sound as well. You're not inheriting it, you're actually waking up to the realization that you are the earth. What does that mean exactly? Well, Father Thomas Berry, who he just passed a few years ago, he's attributed with saying that the earth was once molten lava and now it is singing opera. The earth was once molten lava, and now it is singing opera. You've probably heard that in a lot of my CD programs. It might be in my book, Echoes of an Ancient Dream. I'm not positive. It's definitely in quite a few of my videos. You literally are that. You are the earth, conscious and speaking and singing and feeling and emoting and crying and raging. That's us. That's you. So when we have that experience of not meekness, but humility, we allow ourselves to be malleable, open. I think of Bruce Lee, who said, "Be like water, my friend." It was his favorite quote in the Tao Te Ching, which was his favorite book, Bruce Lee. He talked about be like water, to be in that flow state, to be open, to be like liquid. I want to close this with a little bit of an insight about Crazy Horse, Tashunka Witko, Crazy Horse, Lakota Crazy Horse, headman, someone who I've learned so much from over the years, Joseph Marshall III, an amazing Lakota teacher. And I would call him a medicine man or elder. I don't know if he would take that term. He's about as humble as it gets. But he, in a phenomenal book of his called The Lakota Way, and in the CDs that went along with that, he spoke a lot of Unchi Isiapi, which is that deep humility that Crazy Horse had, a man who was able to be absolutely wide open and completely fearless in battle because he wasn't allowing anything to hook him. He let the wind blow through him. Crazy Horse would get down off of his horse in the cold. Was it the Battle of the Hundred in the Hand? One of the Indian War battles. Got down on his one knee, lifted his horse's hoof, took out his knife, and started scraping ice off of the horse's hoof, while the bullets of the Euro-Americans were flying and cutting around him. He never got shot, never got hit by a bullet. I'm not sure. I don't think he even got hit by an arrow, actually. I don't think he ever took a wound like that in war. But here's this man who is like he's the most fearless leader and warrior in the Lakota history that they speak of. And yet when he would walk through the village, he could wear all of these feathers. He didn't wear a fairly large war bonnet, maybe one or two. He would walk through the village with his head down, aware of the earth. He would go out hunting, and he would get food for the sick, the elderly, those where the breadwinner had been killed, like in battle, as an example. A guy who, the whole idea between the Lakota and the white Americans, the Euro-Americans were out to slaughter everybody and kill them. For the natives here of Turtle Island, the indigenous peoples here, I don't want to call them Native Americans because, they're not American. They were pre-American. But the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island, let's just say, the Lakota, the Dakota, Nakota, Tiwa Pueblo, Navajo, Blackfoot, Crow, or Arikara, what doesn't even matter which one, Cherokee, which, Cherokee, North Carolina is just about an hour from here, from where I'm sitting in our home, the reservation. But the gist for them wasn't to kill people, though that did happen. It was actually to get as close as possible to the enemy in battle and live to tell the tale, so that you can actually look directly in their eyes, so that they know that your medicine is stronger than theirs right now. You're wholly, fully present in the moment. Your strength comes not from you, but from your openness, your willingness, which allows the strength of life itself to birth through you, which makes your medicine stronger. Which is what this meekness truly means. It's not you being a doormat. Never, ever, 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 ever does that mean being a doormat like Christianity puts across, but rather that you're open, that you're empty, and in that emptiness you find your true home, you find your true strength. Okay? There's a lot more insights coming. I'm going to be doing much more regular videos now. We've got some pretty amazing announcements coming. I don't even know where to start. There's a lot of stuff coming, but rather than pre-announcing, we're just going to let it be, and when they're rolled out, we'll roll them out, rather than talking about them ahead of time. I just want to honor you, all of you who are waking up, the Magdalens, the Christos, all who are coming back into that balance, back into the bridal chamber, back into that sacred energetic alchemy, and finding, in the words of Shimshai, restore the balance of the universal mind. In reality, or should I say in eternity, there is no balance, because there is no imbalance. There's only that wholeness, holiness, oneness. But in this, what we call this manifest universe, the dream, the Mila, the divine play, the movie, the Maya, Mayim, the world of liquid illusion, there is imbalance and balance. Even though it's not, quote unquote, real in that sense, in the birthing out, it has to fracture itself. The wholeness has to fracture itself out in order to become some kind of creation, okay? Being open is the true source of all power. The true power comes from the feminine, not from the masculine arc of electricity that spits out, but rather the feminine womb which receives and regenerates. But that being said, it's in the balance between those two that we find the true meaning of humility, the true meaning of makike, to lay naked on the bare ground without a mat, to have that open liquid relationship with earth. So as we are continuing to wake up, realize that a lot of the people around you are going to get really terrified. They're going to get scared. If you've been in a relationship that could be seemingly a healthy relationship for 20 years, and then all of a sudden the Magdalene starts firing up, I don't care how much of a Christos the guy is, he's probably going to feel a bit threatened by that. And, you know, we're going to have to learn to navigate these changes. In the end, remember, stop biting the hook, allow yourself to be open, and allow the energy of the essence of the oneness, the holiness, to move through you. We are literally the ones we've been waiting for, and this is our moment. I say it all the time. If you're interested in learning more about the process of that deep makike, of that open liquid relationship, the porous air like ether relationship with earth, go to the Mentorship with Dale part of my webpage. You go to, I believe it's private sessions and then Mentorship with Dale. It's one-on-one mentorship program. And you can also, if you're interested in learning with me directly, that includes the weekly phone call, which you get the recording of, that sounds basically like I'm in a recording studio, and your end of the conversations there too. So that's really where the integration happens, is in the listening back over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. You get that call, you get full access to myself and my wife Loretta, and you do calls with her as well. So any questions you've got, we've got the answers. You've got text, you know, phone call, whatever. You can double up your calls and do 2 in a week, because it goes really not necessarily weekly, but by the number of calls. So if you're interested in more information about that, go to the Mentorship with Dale part of my website. You can email aramaichealingcircle@yahoo.com. aramaichealingcircle@yahoo.com, our office at daleallenhoffman.com. Or even easier, just pick up your telephone or get on your cell phone and call the Aramaic Healing Circle office. Our office number is 828-707-5877. 828-707-5877. Now, in light of the closing of this video, I'd like to make a little bit of a request that I haven't done before. If you like this video, do us a favor, click like. That's awesome. If you don't like it, unlike it. I will say this, I've never unliked a video in my life. I've also never put a negative comment on any creation at all in my life. Videos, nothing. So interesting. We lock commenting on my videos because too many people that had no absolute education in the subject matter were putting stupid comments up, and it went out of control, and we did what Muji did. We locked commenting so that it stands for itself, and we don't need all the excess commentary. Post it somewhere else and do all the commentary you want. But we ask that if you like this, if you feel some sort of value in this, click like on the video. The next thing is share it everywhere. Share it on Facebook, social media. Share it everywhere you've got. Forward the email to people. Go onto my website, daleallenhoffman.com, daleallenhoffman.com. Right on the homepage, click sign up on my email list. We send out links when all of these videos, as soon as they go up, we send out links. Check out my blog, which you can connect to through my website. And just keep the energy and the essence moving. The other is keep us in your hearts, because this is not easy stuff. I've dedicated all of my life to this. And it's been a long time, and it's been a pretty hard row to hoe at times. And we also would be honoring any kind of donations you would be interested in that would allow us to go deeper into being able to share these insights with others. So please click the like button, share this video everywhere, all over social media, tag me in it, go for it, tag my wife Loretta in it. And again, thank you for your support. Namaste and Amen. So here's a quick addendum to my video about meekness. I filmed that a couple of days ago, what that really meant. And then a couple of things really moved in a profound way that I realized I wanted to add on to this video. In this cool morning glow, you know, this light that's kind of overpowering the camera, pretty beautiful way. Two pieces that I wanted to mention, to add into this. Number one is that experience of hell, what we call hell, is not something that happens after you die. In fact, hell is that experience of overwhelm, the burning, the heat, the effervescence, the fever. You know, Yeshua said, those that are near to me are near to the fire. Those that are far from me are far from the kingdom. I'll get more into that in a later video, talking about how telling us that hell is something we're going to burn up and suffer and be tortured for eternity, especially in the Catholic sense. You know, telling us that is a great way to keep us from being open to the light of God in this lifetime. And that burning experience that we have in the humility, in the meekness, etc., swatting an ant off my foot, is something that when that light of God opens up and it starts burning up all of those things inside of us that are unlike that wholeness, that holiness, we resist that process, and the heat comes in and that burning out. And that's a large aspect of humility. I'll get really deep into that in future videos, that what the truth of what hell actually was, rather than the idea we have of it today in the modern age, which is actually from Dante. Only about 900 years ago, Dante Ferlinghetti. It's actually quite new. Wasn't there in the original Jesus teachings whatsoever in any way. The other aspect I wanted to say simply is that in humility, in mochike, the difference between that and what one would call meekness, blessed are the meek, is that meek is a contraction. Meek is pulling back. It's squashing and or contracting downward, as opposed to humility, mochike. Blessed are those of absolute open liquidity, humility, that open flow, let the wind blow through you. That's an expansion process, and it's an opening of being able to allow those strong energies of life to move through us in that open flow. And that's what brings us back into that holiness. I just wanted to add that meekness, it's not quite right. Saying that about that third Aramaic beatitude of Yeshua. It's not a contraction. It's an expansion, and it's an openness. Again, I say, Namaste and Amen.